After a decade of marriage, I found out my husband, who swore he loved me more than anything, had been cheating with hookers since day one. You can't break me, he insisted, but I uncovered lie after lie. Now I'm shattered, questioning my entire life. What do I do next? I have been posting here for a while, and some of you may remember my previous posts. This is going to be a lengthy one. I had to delete my previous account because my husband discovered that I had been posting and found my post. Once he discovered it, he began gaslighting me, claiming that I have no original thoughts and that strangers on the internet can brainwash me. I have been with him since I was 18, and we have been together for 10 years, dating for 8 years, and married for 2. We lost our virginity to each other, or at least I did. He is a person who is extremely skilled at lying, manipulating, gaslighting, hiding, and denying. He possesses no principles, boundaries, or integrity. Throughout our relationship, I have discovered multiple questionable things on his phone. This includes sexting with random girls, masturbating to their nude photographs, seeking prostitutes online, searching for shady massage centers, and more. Each time he managed to cover it up by blaming his friends, claiming they made him look for this content for them, or simply dismissing it as something he did out of curiosity. I believed him. Each time he swore to me that he was not lying and promised that nothing like this would ever happen again. I believed him, as I could not fathom that someone could lie like this. The recent incident began when I went through his phone out of suspicion. This is the only way I can uncover the truth, as he is never open to honest conversations, and discovered he traveled to Pattaya when we had agreed he would not, yet he lied and went anyway during his trip to Thailand, which he took by himself while I was in another country for an exam. The only place he visited there was Pattaya Walking Street. When I confronted him about what he had been up to, he continued lying and did not mention Pattaya, swearing that he did nothing in Thailand that he should not have. However, my instincts were strongly urging me that something was very wrong, and I continued to probe him. After a week of pleading for the truth and threatening him that I had proof, he finally admitted to having massages that included a hand job, during which he merely touched the masseuse's breasts. He swore to me emphatically that this was all there was to it. I did not believe him and kept questioning him, while he continued to lie and assert that he had provided me with the complete truth. In the meantime, I also discovered contact numbers of pimps in his phone who would supply prostitutes and share their rates and images to choose from. When confronted, he claimed that he would simply contact them so they would send the pictures of the girls he would masturbate to, and that was it. He told me that I had no proof because he had not done anything beyond that and that he could not tell me about something that never happened. He insisted that I could not break him, regardless of how much I insisted, as he was already broken and had told me the complete truth, and he could not divulge anything that never occurred. He claimed that he had never had sex with anyone else, as he found it gross to do so with prostitutes, and insisted he was not attracted to anyone other than me. When I asked him why, if it was merely about pictures, he could not search for them online, he replied that they did not have the same effect since they were not real girls. After another week of pleading, crying, and enduring the worst anxiety of my life, I asked him why he only sought prostitutes in the cities and countries he visited. Why did he not contact pimps in countries he had never visited if it was all about pictures? When I asked this, he did not have a reasonable explanation and finally admitted that he had also been having sex with prostitutes for years, both in our home country and others, both before and after our marriage. Given how long I had been discovering these things, it had been going on since the beginning of our relationship. Sometimes it followed a massage, and other times it was just sex. One time he even made a prostitute stay longer in his hotel room for 2 hours so he could have sex with her twice. He insisted it always happened with a condom. He blamed it on his high sex drive and claimed he would always feel guilty afterward and had been trying to stop it for ages. All this drip feeding of information occurred over the course of 2 weeks after I begged him for the truth so we could move on. While he was engaging in these activities in Thailand, he kept telling me how much he missed me and how depressed he was being there all alone. When it comes to me, he is extremely controlling and insecure. I cannot even breathe without his approval. I cannot get a massage from a man while he receives them from women regularly. One time I went to a club alone in the country I was visiting, and he made a significant issue out of it. He started blackmailing me, insisting that if I was to be his wife, I could not go to another club again. He contacted my family and informed them how inconsiderate I was, claiming I was only interested in drinking and clubbing and could not be bothered to respond to him. He has also been abusive throughout our relationship, and this behavior escalated significantly after our marriage. He has slapped me across the face multiple times, sometimes repeatedly. He has pushed me around, squeezed and twisted my arms, thrown me forcefully onto the bed, pulled my hair, and engaged in other forms of physical abuse. He would block the door and physically restrain me, grabbing me and throwing me onto the bed if I attempted to leave. He would prevent me from packing my belongings. I have pictures on my phone showing bruises on my body from his abuse. He is also emotionally and financially abusive and manipulative. After all these episodes, he would apologize and promise not to repeat his actions. He would also blame it on me being verbally abusive during my fits of anger following his mistakes. All of this transpired while he professed to love me more than anything else and beyond measures. He would act so convincingly in front of my family that even they believed he loved me dearly and that I was the problem, telling me the same. He also confessed that his family, his parents, and even maternal aunts had been instructing him on how to treat his wife in a certain manner to keep her in line. They would tell him that he did so much for me while I did not reciprocate, asserting that this would set the tone for our entire life together, so he should control me now. He would argue with me because of their influence and how I did not interact with them enough. At this point, I had reached my limit and was ready to leave him, but then he began apologizing and pleading again, promising that something had shifted in him. He claimed he always wanted to tell me all of this on his own accord at the right time. He insisted he was a changed man now after I went to the club and the emotional turmoil he experienced because of it, finally understanding how I must have felt. He promised he would fix everything and be the best husband anyone could ever have. He offered me access to his phone and his live location, and would do whatever it took to regain my trust. I do not know why I am writing all of this. Perhaps a part of me still believes he will change. I am completely shattered and heartbroken, to say the least. I devoted the 10 best years of my life to him. I still cannot believe that my partner of 10 years has treated me this way. I always thought that men who sought paid sex were the lowest tier of men and could never believe he was capable of such actions. I had no idea I knew him so little. I feel like I am an idiot who has been living under a rock. It astounds me how easily he was able to fool me. I feel entirely defeated yet stuck and currently do not see a way out. Please share any thoughts you might have for me. In brief, my husband has cheated on me with paid prostitutes for years. Story 2. Caught my father and fiancé, Ryan, in a scandalous encounter. Emily, this isn't what it looks like. But it was. Now I'm piecing together my shattered life after discovering he'd been blackmailed. Some truths are more painful than betrayal. What's next for me? I never thought I would be the kind of person to find my life unraveling like a cliché soap opera plot, but here we are. My name is Emily, and up until a few days ago, I believed I was living my best life. I was engaged to a man I adored, planning a wedding, and completely unaware of the secret that would destroy everything. It started innocently enough. My fiancé, Ryan, informed me he was heading out for the evening to watch the game with a friend. I did not think twice about it. He had been spending more time out lately, but I assumed it was just the stress of wedding planning. If only I had trusted my instincts instead of dismissing my unease. That night, I went to my parents' house to drop off some wedding invitations for my mother to mail out. When I walked in, the place was unnervingly quiet. I called out a couple of times, but no one answered. My mother had informed me earlier that she would be at her book club, so I figured my father must have gone out as well. As I made my way to the living room, I heard muffled voices coming from the direction of the den. The door was slightly ajar, and I paused when I heard Ryan's voice. My stomach twisted. Why would he be here? Perhaps he wanted to surprise me with my father's help regarding some wedding detail. That was what I told myself anyway. Then I heard my father laugh, a low, intimate sound that made my skin crawl. Curiosity overwhelmed me, and I pushed the door open just enough to see inside. What I saw paralyzed me. Ryan and my father were entangled on the couch, unmistakably in the middle of something I will never be able to unsee. My father's shirt was halfway unbuttoned, and Ryan, my fiancé of 3 years, was kissing him as if he had never kissed me. The sound of the door creaking alerted them, and they jumped apart like guilty teenagers caught sneaking out. Ryan's face turned as white as a sheet, and my father simply looked stunned, as though he had never considered the possibility of being caught. Emily, this isn't, Ryan started, scrambling for words. Just don't. My voice did not even sound like my own. It was flat and detached, as if I were floating outside my own body. I turned to leave, but my father had the audacity to call after me. Emily, wait, let's talk about this. I spun around, finally finding my voice. Talk about what, Dad? How you are sleeping with my fiancé? How long has this been going on? Weeks, months, years? Neither of them answered. Ryan was still frozen, and my father had the nerve to look ashamed, but neither of them offered me the truth. I hope you are happy together, I said, my voice trembling, because you have both lost me. I walked out, got into my car, and drove. I do not even remember where I went at first, just anywhere but there. The betrayal hit me in waves. The man I believed I would marry and the father I thought I could trust had both shattered me in a single moment. Since then, I have called off the wedding and severed contact with both of them. My mother is devastated, but she supports my decision. As for Ryan and my father, I have no idea if they are still whatever they were. I do not care to find out. If there is one thing I have learned, it is that sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. And in the end, it is better to walk away from the wreckage than to stay and try to make sense of it. Update. This entire situation has felt surreal, and somehow it has gotten even worse. Let me begin by saying, for those questioning the validity of my story, I understand. This entire situation feels like something out of a melodramatic novel. Ironically, I am an English professor at a community college, and writing has always been a part of my life. Perhaps that is why my words seem too polished or convenient. But trust me, I would much rather be grading papers on Shakespearean tragedy than living through one of my own. Life can be stranger than fiction, and unfortunately this is my reality. I took a few days to process everything after catching Ryan and my father together. I packed up Ryan's belongings and left them on the porch for him to pick up with explicit instructions not to knock or try to see me. Cutting him out of my life felt like the only option, and I have been keeping my distance from my father as well. My mother has been a wreck, trying to figure out how to salvage her marriage while supporting me at the same time. But then, something occurred that turned my world upside down once more. A few nights ago, I received a text from an unknown number. "Emily, we need to talk. You do not know the full story. Please meet me, Ryan." I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him in a public place, a coffee shop downtown. I wanted answers, even if I did not think I would believe a word he said. When I walked in, Ryan looked terrible. He had not shaved, and dark circles were evident under his eyes. He started talking the moment I sat down, and what he told me was something I never could have imagined. Apparently, my father had been blackmailing him. According to Ryan, this all began about a year ago. My father somehow discovered that Ryan had cheated on me once, early in our relationship, with a mutual friend of ours. My father confronted him privately and threatened to tell me unless Ryan complied with his demands. Ryan claimed he only went along with it out of fear of losing me. He said my father manipulated him, using guilt and threats to keep him compliant. Ryan swore he never loved my father and that it was all some twisted game of control. I was skeptical how convenient for him to shift the blame now, right? But then Ryan showed me his phone and revealed screenshots of texts from my father. They were explicit, coercive, and undeniably real. My stomach churned as I read them. One message from my father stated, "If you want to keep Emily, you will do as I say. She does not need to know who you really are." I felt sick. My father, the man who raised me, had orchestrated this entire nightmare. He was not just cheating on my mother, he was manipulating my fiancé and using me as leverage. I left the coffee shop in a daze, unsure of what to believe anymore. When I arrived home, I confronted my mother and showed her the texts. She completely broke down. It is one thing to discover your husband is cheating, it is another to learn he is capable of that. Right now, my mother and I are staying with a family friend while we determine our next steps. She has already contacted a lawyer, and I have blocked Ryan for good this time. I do not care if he was manipulated, he still cheated on me and lied for years. As for my father, I do not even recognize him anymore. The man I thought I knew is gone, replaced by someone I never wish to see again. Thank you once again for the support and advice. I do not know where I will go from here, but at least now I can start putting the pieces of my life back together without them in it. Story 3. After 2 years, my 19-year-old girlfriend's vacation antics shattered my trust. She sent hearts to a guy she'd barely known for 3 days while we were broken up. "So what if we did kiss? I still chose you," she said, leaving me questioning everything. Can love survive betrayal? A little backstory to my relationship. I have been with this girl for 2 years now, and I love her with all my heart. However, for the past year, we have been fighting and arguing almost weekly. We have tried everything from improving our communication to therapy. We have both worked on getting less angry at each other's actions and much more, but I am having particular difficulty pretending that nothing occurred one time last summer. Now, what transpired was that there were tensions throughout the summer, and we were fighting a lot. Both of us had planned to go on vacation separately with our friends or friend groups, and once together, just the two of us. She was the first to go, accompanied only by her one female friend from college, and everything was fine initially. However, we ended up fighting and breaking up the day after she arrived while I was still at home. Here is where the interesting part begins. During that one day she was there and we were communicating, she attended a party or club twice. I had informed her that I do not like her going to parties or clubs too frequently. At home, she might go once a month or every month and a half, and I never complained, I just expressed my boundaries. Nonetheless, she completely disregarded my feelings and even mentioned that she planned to go every day, multiple times a day, before we broke up on the first day. The breakup was over something trivial, as is often the case, so I will not go into detail since it does not hold significance over her actions or mine. During the breakup, things were normal and I was nearing my breaking point. I certainly did not expect to be the one to reach out to her first. However, after she returned home 7 days later and following a few more days without contact, I sent her a message or called her to discuss our relationship so we could break up amicably rather than while she was in another country. We met up, talked, and as always, I found myself wanting to fix things with her. This time, however, she was hesitant and requested another month to think about everything. I respected her decision and did not pressure her. But as we spent more time together, the connection rekindled gradually, and we eventually reconciled and discussed her vacation. That is when we talked about her partying and how many guys approached her while she was there. She mentioned a few guys she turned down, but one guy she indicated she befriended was also from our country on vacation and stayed in the apartment directly beneath hers and her friends. She did not elaborate much on him, but for some reason I felt suspicious. The next time we spent time together, we began discussing the guys who approached her, and I respectfully asked if she would show me text messages with this particular individual. By the way, we never go through each other's phones or ask to see each other's messages, and as I made that request, she became anxious and my heart sank. She started to smile shyly and insisted she did not want to. When I pressed the issue, she kept insisting this was a bad idea and that I would become angry. Initially, the messages seemed friendly, but things quickly took a turn for the worse. At one point, she and her friend were at a club and a guy was flirting with them, making them uncomfortable. She called that guy over and stated that she needed him there, not both of them. That was the exact moment my stomach began to churn. I managed to stay composed, but my hands began to tremble as I held her phone. She noticed and cautioned me not to proceed. Regardless, I did. They hung out every day and visited each other's apartments, but according to her, his friend group along with her friend was present each time. They also went to clubs together, but not with the entire group, only him, her, and her friend. The part that devastated me was that they started sending each other hearts after every third message, as well as good morning and good night texts. The only thing missing from those messages was I love you, which should summarize the nature of those conversations. She had known him for just 3 days. I shed a few tears and confronted her. At that point, we had only been broken up for 3 days when she began sending hearts, and she was in another country. I expressed how hurt I was that I had always been the one wanting to fix things after our 30 fights, but over a trivial breakup, she engaged in this behavior. I conveyed how betrayed I felt, seeing that she did not even attempt to mend things with me or reach out, but was already sending good morning and good night messages to another guy. Even though we were broken up, I felt incredibly cheated, as we had broken up similarly before but always returned to one another knowing it was trivial. But this time, she crossed a line. She continued sending hearts and flirting with him and even made plans with him after our return home. The texting continued until the morning when I called her to talk, and her final message to him was after we reconciled, in which she stated she had gotten back with me and could no longer communicate with him. If I recall correctly, she even apologized for being unable to talk to him anymore. I broke down and nearly started crying at the thought that someone I hold dear and who claimed to love me more than anything could do something like that. I cannot help but explain that she is not the type to cheat. She does not party frequently, does not have negative influences among her friends, excels in her studies, and is generally not promiscuous. Therefore, it weighed heavily on me what she had done. She began crying as well, asserting that nothing had occurred and that they had not even kissed, only hung out. She continuously told me she planned to stop communicating with him after a few days, intending to gradually reduce the conversation until they ceased all contact. However, that reasoning does not make much sense when she was also flirting with him and planning activities with him back home. She had every opportunity to refrain from flirting, to say something different, or to change the topic. Instead, she seized every chance to do precisely those things. It would have made sense if she had not reciprocated his advances. Instead, she prolonged their conversations and initiated contact on numerous occasions, asking about his day and what he was doing. One more thing troubled me. Other guys had approached her before, and I observed how she interacted with them and how she ceased communication. She is always dismissive of their advances and often makes subtle jabs at their flirting until they grow disinterested and stop messaging her. She claims she does this because she feels guilty and anxious, finding solace when they themselves lose interest. However, with this guy, it was the opposite. She was careful about how she communicated and flirted back, as I described earlier. She even once became defensive, saying, "So what if we kissed? I still chose you in the end." She fails to comprehend that this is not the point. I told her that I want to believe her, but it will never be that simple or on the same level of trust again. As we are currently experiencing a rough patch, I find myself contemplating the situation more and cannot help but feel that we have grown distant and that things are not going to be the same, or at least not satisfactory. Yet here we are trying to remain together. I understand this is a lengthy story, but I needed to express it, and I would like to hear people's opinions on this situation and whether they believe she is lying or telling the truth. I also apologize if my spelling is poor in some areas. It is not my first language. Story 4. My first love cheated on me, yet I still want her back. You're all I want, she says while I grapple with the hurt and betrayal. Despite her lies and betrayals, memories of our future together haunt me. Can love survive such pain, or is it time to let go? My name is G, and my ex's name is J. We were in a perfectly happy relationship, with some arguments here and there, but for the most part, we always enjoyed each other's company. About 1 year and 2 months into the relationship, she cheated on me by lying in bed with another man, and that is all she told me. I believed her and chose to overlook it. After approximately 5 months, I learned that there were numerous details about that day that she had omitted. For instance, they began communicating a month prior, continued talking after I gave her another chance, and God knows what else occurred that I remain unaware of. For some reason, I allowed that to pass as well. Even though I initially told her we were breaking up, I ended up going back to her the next day. Roughly 1 month later, she confessed to me that while spending time with a group of friends, a guy was dared to kiss her on the neck and she permitted him. I let this slide too, even though I was extremely upset. About a week later, I discovered that a week before the neck kiss they had made out, and a few days after the dare they had kissed. This was the final straw, and I have finally made a move to end this. However, the reason I am here is to ask why I feel so much love for her despite what she did to me. Why does my life seem so pointless and meaningless without her? It feels as though my entire reason for living and my spark disappeared in an instant. I have lost my ability to smile, have fun, and be productive even though she treated me so poorly. The year and a half we spent together has been the highlight of my life. Looking back, the memories I have of her remembering us smiling together, all the enjoyable dates we planned, navigating high school together, talking about how many children and dogs we wanted, I miss all of it. I want it back more than anything. I desire her more than anything. Everyone has been telling me I will get over it, but I do not see how. This girl is my first everything. I trusted her more than I trust my own family, loved her more and cared for her more than myself. I just want my sweet girl back. I want to lean on her when I need help. I do not want anyone else. I only want her. I apologize for going off track, but I will continue. I have been texting her father frequently since we have grown quite close. He apologized for everything she has done to me and said he is experiencing the same situation with his ex-wife, which is where she developed these habits. He advised me not to text her because she needs to focus on herself, suggesting that perhaps in the future she will be ready for me. Is it realistic to think I have a chance with her? A real chance to find happiness with her. The last thing I want is false hope. However, if I have a chance of being with her, I would sacrifice everything for it. Her father told me that she has been crying over me, saying I am all she wants and she does not desire anyone else. I just do not understand why she cheated so much if that were the case. We were planning to move in together in just 4 months, but she could not refrain from cheating. I really do not comprehend it. I hesitate to ask this, but I need someone to talk to. I do not care how old you are, your gender, or your opinions on this matter, but if you believe you can help me through this significant change, I would be forever grateful. I need guidance. I cannot do this alone. I am blinded by love, and I will never make the right choices if I rely solely on myself. And Julia, on the slight chance that you somehow see this message, whether on Reddit or TikTok, please understand that I love you more than I have ever loved anything else in my entire life, but you have hurt me. All I ever wanted was to be happy with you, but that reality is slipping away from me. I do not want it to fade. I want to have you with me forever. I want to go on our small dates again. I want to look into your eyes and get lost in them, forgetting all my problems. I want to feel inspired to provide you with the life you desire. I want to have a family with you. I want to be loved by you. I will never understand why you could not comprehend the things I desired, and I will never understand why you chose temporary pleasure over a lifelong commitment with me. I do not understand it, and I never will, but regardless, I will continue loving you until I leave this life.